You had the coolest wrestler since the 1990s versus, all right, you got the next John Cena.
This is beautiful wrestling violence.
It's beautiful pro wrestling violence.
Bang, 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 stamping on the hand as much as possible. Does a ballerina spin, goes woo like that, and then just slang.
Just a special, fateful night of professional wrestling. Hello and welcome to the Best Match Ever series, where we delve into the anatomy of a pro wrestling classic. Hamflett, what is on the agenda today?
It's one I've been very excited for, Sidge. It's Sasha Banks versus Bayley from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, August 22nd, 2015. It's in front of a sellout crowd of just over 15,000 at Barclays Center in New York City. And I wouldn't necessarily always mention the attendance, or it's not necessarily part of what makes anything the best match ever. But as is always the case on this one, as we go into the build of this match and what all of this match came to represent after the fact as well as while it was taking place, I think that stat, that attendance, that vibe is important. Bayley and Sasha, as we're about to talk about at length, is an incredible match and an incredible rivalry. But there is a meta-narrative that runs through all of this that kind of like finds this match and the importance of this match colliding with NXT's own growth at the time. The blending of reality and fiction kind of starts with the call-up of three of the four horsewomen leaving Bayley behind about a month earlier on the main roster. Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, along with Bayley, have obviously kind of transformed women's wrestling, and they've raised the ceiling of what women's wrestling can even be within WWE, you know, like 15, 20 years later than like various other promotions have done it. But nonetheless,
Vince Russo beat them to it.
Yeah, like
Vince Russo
with the knockouts,
beat them to it.
Like they have,
says it all.
They have done it, and it's all been like gifted to Stephanie McMahon as the divine creator of all of this on the main roster. But in NXT, they have at least put the work in. There was kind of like a thing where every takeover or every NXT special, kind of starting with Emma and Paige at Arrival in 2014, every match would be better than the last. And there was this kind of like pattern that kept happening. And you would notice all of a sudden, Charlotte Flair has won the title and her matches are the best ones. And then the inclusion of Sasha Banks has made her matches the best ones. And Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch have a singles match that then becomes the best one. And then there's a four-way with all four horsewomen, which is simply the best women's match WWE ever promoted and maybe might ever hope to promote, we think, then. However, the bar is getting raised and raised and raised. The three get called up to the main roster, and Bayley is left behind. And it folds into a story where she has been injured on NXT TV. And over the years, as the horsewomen have been taking over the show, has found herself getting turned on by Charlotte when she was a friend, Bayley when she was a friend, and then left in the dirt by Sasha Banks, who has always considered herself way above Bayley as the boss character that she was at the time. Bayley was nothing more than a super fan that just happened to be a wrestler. She then proceeds to break her hand and get injured and lose more time as the three women disappear. When she returns to television, she says she wants to be NXT Women's Champion. She will no longer settle for being the abandoned and the forgotten. And en route to getting the match against Sasha Banks, she actually defeats Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, clean as a whistle, to kind of prove her credentials. So yeah, they've kind of kept this meta story going that even though she's been left behind, was she secretly the best one all along? And it's quite nice how they've kind of like brought reality and fiction together. Sasha Banks doesn't think so. She's going to crush her at Brooklyn. She's going to crush her dream. She's going to take what's left of Bayley's heart and soul and desire for all of this and just stay NXT champion on the main roster, and there's nothing Bayley can do about it.
There's something special, right? This is corny. I do not care. When you become close with someone and you make friends with them, and then you slowly together realize just how geeky you are in your shared habit, and then the walls come down and then you become close, and it's great. Michael Hamflett, my esteemed colleague, and I maybe had that first ever, we are total nerds, and that's great, moment when we were talking about, so 2015, context is the main roster sucks. Now, it's context for a long time, but it was really getting brutal. That stuff with Seth Rollins being the stepson of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon was brutal.
It was the vibe of, you've had your Brian.
Yeah, you've had your
Brian. You can wait 10 more years for a thing you like because you've had your Brian. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Gone.
I had progressively little need for WWE, but I still wanted it to be good because it's accessible. People talk about it. A lot of your favorite wrestlers are there. A lot of people needed NXT. A lot of people needed it. And NXT, as I've argued, and this is the zenith for me of NXT, no matter the era, was better as the feel-good promotion that rewarded you and made you feel good than it ever was the epic match, great match promotion. And Hamflett and I both shared to one another that around this time, we used to commute to our old jobs when we didn't even know each other. Maybe even the same beats of the song were playing at the exact same time. That Sasha Banks theme tune was on repeat on those commutes because we just loved the idea that this was happening.
I couldn't wait for the hour every week. I could not wait for NXT to get here. I've talked at length before about how, I've never had the dark period, and most people switch off for their own good at WWE at some point or other, or wrestling indeed. And 2013 was as close as I ever came, with the constant thumb on Daniel Bryan's head and just the authority characters being made real, ultimately.
Yeah.
And it was NXT.
That slow realization of, we are the best.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's that the idea that I remember, I've talked about the house show where Daniel Bryan was lifted off and they considered the Big Show and Randy Orton a perfectly fine substitute, as indeed they considered the Big Show a substitute for Bryan.
Yeah.
2014 and the rise of NXT through its importance of being a live product that the network could offer that was different to the main roster. I think that probably goes understated now, but the network was launching with a rival and one of our own who we'd seen on the come up here, Pac, as Neville then winning the NXT title, and that being a statement of intent that, a guy like Neville is not just in WWE and kind of clinging on. He's the world champion of a version of WWE.
Yeah.
I think I can go for this.
And he's actually allowed to wrestle
just
Neville.
Being him, the 2014 story of all of these women kind of getting this opportunity. The platform gets higher and higher and higher for the women as the Divas division, save for maybe AJ Lee, Caitlyn, and Nikki Bella trying the hardest in impossible circumstances. The gap just gets wider between the quality on the two brands, and then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn stuff at the end of 2014. Being able to fold years of an indie rivalry from Ring of Honor and PWG seamlessly into NXT. This was different gravy for WWE to be doing.
It just we always talk about NXT as well as, does Vince know about this?
Yeah, definitely.
It just felt like it was being booked in secret for
it became the problem
else.
in the end.
Of course, yeah.
It became what killed it in the end, yeah.
Absolutely. And just specifically on the women's division and Bayley and Sasha, it was just an absolutely amazing time to see them. And it was the low bar cleared. It's almost like the AEW versus 2021 WWE thing, where they cleared the lowest bar, and you should never stop harping on about how low the bar was. And they lowered it themselves with rank institutional misogyny, the extent to which would become all the more appalling in subsequent years, of course. But no matter how low they set the bar for themselves, collectively, the women just completely jumped over it. A very, very special time. What they had in Bayley and Sasha was the ultimate perfect device to create drama and conflict and storytelling. You had this young woman in Sasha Banks who's 22, 23 years old?
She's 23 and Bayley's 25.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And this Sasha Banks, I'm thinking, this is the coolest professional wrestler since the 1990s. I loved Okada and Tanahashi's rivalry, and obviously Okada was an incredibly cool character. But I think the reason why people have forecast probably more than Bayley and Sasha were ultimately capable of was this contrast was so immaculate. You had the coolest wrestler since the 1990s, this impossibly young prodigy who just felt above all of it, and she obviously wore that as her persona. Versus, all right, you got the next John Cena versus the coolest wrestler since the 90s. This was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they've met each other at the right time as well.
You couldn't believe you were watching it almost, could you?
Yeah.
This was advertised as one half of a double main event on this takeover.
Yeah.
And ultimately it was the better half of a double main event, because there was an excellent Finn Balor, Kevin Owens ladder match as the main event, but them
should have swapped them around.
And to themselves said it. I think Kevin Owens said it as you later see a 24 documentary clip of the two of them backstage, and Kevin Owens got this look of, how are we going to follow that? And I think they both admit latterly that they couldn't.
Yeah.
This was the match of the night, and from the reactions in the building, literally the second these two women walk on stage, it's clearly the match that these people. Yes, a white hot NXT product at the time. It was
in the SummerSlam walk-up crowd as well.
Yeah, but it was, everybody knew that this show quality-wise was going to outstrip SummerSlam by orders of magnitude, and you could feel it mostly, I think, the second that these two women came out on what was otherwise, a very hot night for NXT. Bayley's music hit, get an insane pop right out the gate, and straight away, and again, you pointed out, all of this is happening perfectly at the perfect time. I love this dearly because I do genuinely feel sometimes, and you will have had this with wrestling as well, maybe this is a universal fan experience. Sometimes just things feel like they're tailored to you and you alone.
Yeah.
And that's what makes wrestling feel like it is yours and yours alone. She is draped in the influence of her idols. She's got the Randy Savage streamers and tassels hanging off her arms. She's in the white and gold of Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 12 when his dream was finally achieved. And she's got the, like sort of rather tragically, but very emotionally, got the polka dot headband and polka dot wrist tape. And that comes into the match later on in tribute to Dusty Rhodes, who had only just passed a few months earlier and was obviously so influential to not just all of this era of NXT. Cody Rhodes will say the NXT kids, but the women's division in particular, because if you then watch the old FCW promo class tapes, like he is so crucial in helping them find their voice and confidence when WWE as a market leader wasn't doing that for women for decades. Dusty got it, and all of the women have since said that. It ends up being like foreshadowing of SummerSlam weekend because, of course, Seth Rollins in the white that Vince McMahon hated, the New Day in their white as they go on to win the titles again. It becomes a theme of the weekend in Barclays, and she does something that somehow I think I've managed to forget over the years. Gets a Hogan pop by going to the ropes each time with that pose. Yeah. And we were at the fabled 2015 house show tour that followed these events, and I was in those buildings. You're going to come over our side and do the hand thing on Bayley. It was massive. She was every kind of
people
perfect
thought
kind
that
of
she was
over.
the next John Cena.
And had every right to.
That the connection with that crowd was absolutely insane.
And then you point out Sasha Banks enters next, and it's even more spectacular, as it should be. She is the champion. She's driven into Barclays in an Escalade. Again, this wasn't an era of everybody getting special entrances in NXT at the time. She's flanked by her personal security, who literally lift her into the ring, and for 23, she is radiating the confidence of a 20-year pro. Yeah. It is remarkable. She's the NXT champion, and to that point, before the announcements are even made, she kind of patrols the ring and then just walks straight up to Bayley and puts the belt in her face with all the confidence. Well, confidence understates Sasha Banks' demeanor at this point, I think.
She is absolutely, it just feels like she is the biggest world beater. It's frankly astonishing that this was a WWE production. Mm-hmm. So much so that the people who were spurned by it for years, even well over a decade at this point, just all of those sort of internal biases you have of, I don't want to enjoy this because I know who's promoted it. I know it's not the nicest by half institution. It's all going to go to crap. Everything does. That feeling just evaporated. It felt like a completely different promotion when these entrances are happening. What an inspired choice as well to give her the special entrance. Yeah. Just to make everything feel big. Because it's one of those where it allows you into a work. Obviously, it was an inspired idea to run this takeover on the eve of a big 4 tentpole event because you're capitalizing on the people who are already in town, who are already in the mood for pro wrestling. All of that goes away when you see this entrance. You think that how much does she radiate star power? It's all her. They've come to see her. Mm-hmm. Not strictly true, but in that moment you can suspend your disbelief and allow yourself to believe it. My memories of that are, Jesus Christ, she's going to be the biggest superstar in the history of the sport. This woman was 23 years old, a prodigy in the ring, drenched in charisma, felt like an actual heel, a time traveler because no one really got heat. She would do an even better job in an inferior match a month later. Mm-hmm. The biggest, coolest star I'd seen in years and years and years. Where did you come from?
Well, it's funny you mention about...
How did you come from anywhere? What was the women's independence scene in the United States before this?
Well, you mentioned about obviously, it's within WWE, and they've got Sasha Banks.
Yeah, it was insane.
Commentator Rich Brennan, who again wasn't long for this version of NXT, but obviously has his best night and his best calls for his best match. But he actually notes briefly that she's got a match at SummerSlam tomorrow, but all the focus is here on Bayley tonight. And just that put in my mind the contrast of the scale and the size of this and how big Sasha Banks feels in this moment versus the main roster already boxing people off into trios. Yeah. The match she's talking about is Team Bella versus Team Bad versus Team PCB. And already... they've been minimised. Yeah. Get into your little trios.
In your zones.
In your one little match, in your zone. The contrast is unbelievable between that and this and what we're about to watch here. This is the dance. This is the match. They both get humongous responses, obviously, as they're introduced individually. And like Bayley is beloved out there. Your eyes are immediately drawn to the purple I'm a Hugger shirt.
Yeah,
and it's the John Cena comparison again, constantly.
It's time travel again. Yeah. I did not believe it would be possible. And I'm 3 years into a fixation and a love affair with Hiroshi Tanahashi. So rationally, I know that it is possible to be a really wholesome-ish, actual struggling babyface that people just simply love without this aspiration to be cool or edgy. And yet, watching it in America, and a woman no less, perform this role was just, again, like intoxicating. Yeah. It made me, all of this reminded me of, this is why you love it. This is a why you love it match.
Well, obviously, that when they're announced, Bayley gets this incredible pop yet again. Sasha Banks gets booed as the heel and as the character, but you can feel the excitement for the fans that are getting to see her live for the first time. NXT is predominantly a Full Sail exclusive place with a few touring shows here and there, but this is kind of one of her big bows in an arena for the first time outside of a few Raw tapings here and there, and you can feel the excitement. They're booing almost to go along with it, but the excitement is there to see Sasha Banks as well. Like, they're both baby faces in their own way, and that will obviously come full circle at the end of the match. But the bell rings and they go nose to nose, and Sasha just instantly, ruthlessly and instinctively mocks Bayley. None of this feels like a work or something they've thought about. She just gets right in her face. Sasha laughs in Bayley's face. She like mocks her gear. There's like some tassels hanging off Bayley's trousers, and she just sort of like flicks them away.
It's not a second that goes by without the thread being just completely held onto.
And Sasha's acting needs to be praised here, because it's this condescending smile that, as she's mocking Bayley, turns to disdain, and she sees it as an act of disrespect that Bayley's even challenging her and thinking she can beat her. And it's in that moment when the smile sort of turns to disdain, she just screams, "You're pathetic," and she continues to dress her down. So Bayley just immediately tackles her to the mat. She's not waited for a kind of invitation at this point. She's gone for it, just with some really, really violent strikes. And I thought, on this watch in particular, was this a point the two of them were making?
I had the exact,
for years, Divas matches were rolling sequences, often comically to bring the referee, and the referee's wrapped up in the women's bodies.
Yes.
The strikes are obviously nowhere near as convincing, but that's every Divas match, because obviously ultimately the poor women were sent out there to go and give the fans 5 minutes of titillation. We don't care what you do. Here, the rolling is the first thing they do, and it's anything but comedy, because they are killing each other with those fists. Are they making a point there, Jim?
I think that's a very good take. To be honest, I think I'd completely repressed any memories of the vast majority of Divas matches that I've ever seen. If not the rolling sequence, I'm inclined to agree now that you bring it up. It's the ferocity of those strikes that really speaks to me. There are countless tales of wrestlers in that old Divas division. It feels like the insult it was to say that out loud, but that's what it was. Who have been told at the time, "What are you doing?" I think it's Michelle McCool versus Melina. They have a match where Melina does the splits and then gets drop kicked by Michelle McCool.
I think it's Michelle McCool,
yeah. Apparently they get told backstage, "What the hell was that?
Yeah.
Why are you wrestling like the blokes? You don't do that. You don't hit hard. You don't work snug. Do your light stuff as light as you possibly can for a maximum of 5 minutes, and then you get out, because that's what you had to do." This felt like a pointed, we're going to work stiff, not just for the competitive energy of this match in a vacuum, but we want to signal a paradigm shift. We're going to punch each other in the neck here.
Yeah.
You might get punched in the throat. It doesn't matter to me, because I will break your ass in half. You know what I mean? It feels like I might end up with a black eye. I'm not saying it wasn't completely safe, or they weren't clever enough to make it look way more unvarnished than any other women's match in WWE history up to this point. But I would just feel like they've made a pact with one another before the bell of, we have to go as hard as any women have gone in a WWE ring ever to make this as special as we think it can be.
And the fans roar their approval in return, because at the first point where they get any space, they kind of head into the corner. Bayley gets a few back elbows on Sasha Banks' neck, and the fight has actually created a bit of space. There's a breathing space for the first point in this match for the audience. Just roar back, "Let's go Bayley, let's go boss." It's deafening in there.
It just feels...
They're responding to the violence.
Yeah.
They care about the fight. Sasha takes over, because she is always cast as the dominant one throughout in this match. She smashes Bayley's face into the turnbuckle, but Bayley, as a kind of, like, almost as like the Samoan no-sell, she's a baby face, and she makes the smashing at the turnbuckle spot feel part of like Sasha's condescending act towards her. You cannot simply do this anymore. We're not cartoons. I'm not going to take this. So Bayley fights back. She does the same to Sasha, and then she does the running springboard elbow with Sasha Banks trapped in a tree of woe position. She tries to up and release herself. It's basically the Alberto Del Rio spot, but good. Sasha tries to release herself, and in that space, Bayley does the running springboard elbow and takes her back down. The deal is she's got to stay on top of Sasha Banks, not the other way around. Then you hear the Sasha's ratchet, no, she's not chance, which is, again, a holdover from Full Sail, so you sense that these fans are invested.
Yeah.
All 15,000 people, have they been trying to get to Full Sail all this time?
Yeah.
Bayley gets a springboard arm drag, which sends Sasha Banks hurtling to the floor.
Her selling of this is like she's furious.
She's I've literally got that word in my notes. She is absolutely furious, raging that Bayley could even get her with this move, let alone send her right across the ring in the process. They go out to the floor. Bayley hits that fantastic underneath the bottom turnbuckle corner drop kick, which she just slides through effortlessly. Her and Sami Zayn were using that corner of the ring the same way at the same time, and it always looks amazing when it comes off. So again, she's kind of got a number, but as they get back in the ring, Sasha kind of manages to like wrestle control of Bayley, and she tries to place her over the middle ropes and hit that double knee attack that she likes. She's unable to do it this time. Bayley manages to get a counter, but this time, because they're fighting, they're kind of grappling in the corner. Sasha is able to boot Bayley in the knee and send her to the floor this time as like a revenge attack. While Sasha's got the ring, she mocks Bayley. She gestures to the fans. She does the big sort of pose to the fans, does the way like that. But the fans still come up for it anyway because they're just buzzing to see Sasha. Yeah. And we see glimpses of how, again, the chemistry that they have between the two of them, of when you're friends, you can pretty much destroy the act of your best mate because you know what's going to happen later in the match to kind of pay it back. And this is where like Sasha starts to get a little bit rougher. She rips the Dusty Rhodes bow off Bayley's head and just like throws it in her face. Sasha hits the ropes as Bayley tries to sit back up, spins on the spot like a ballerina. Oh my God. Does a ballerina spin, goes woo like that, and then just slaps Bayley in the face. It's insult to injury stuff.
It's you fill in the blanks in a match like this. In my head, a tooth flies out, spit flies out, like a red mark appears on her cheek. The disdain and violence here is incredible. And it's like, it's black comedy. Yeah. It's funny.
It's funny.
It's disgusting. And after it's all said and done, Bayley sells it in the appropriate way, and you want to like, all right, that was funny, but come on, kick her ass for that. Yeah, kick her ass for that.
You've got to get her for that, but she's struggling to get the chance. Sasha Banks at this point, like, puts on this like really.
She makes herself look like she knows how to own that screen. You know, it's ironic because it's Bayley who is adorned with the Macho Man stuff, but Randy Savage wasn't as big as Hogan, Ventura, Andre, you know, but he knows how to make himself big. With his hands outstretched and the tassels, he dominates the screen. Like, this twirl around from Sasha and the sheer wingspan, if you like, of the distance on the slap, it's like she feels larger than life.
Yeah, obviously the noise that it generates because it's all shoot, brother. Like, she just absolutely wails on her. You're right. It does. It can like kind of completely, again, picks up on the first detail that they've dropped here that Sasha is permitted to feel as dominant as she is over Bayley, and it's Bayley's job to overcome that. And that's, I think, at least why. So she sticks on a neck crank, and the camera catches Bayley's like kind of neck almost turned at like a 45-degree angle, and then she switches. She puts the knee in her back, and she switches to like a straight jacket to like work on the neck and the back of Bayley further. Sasha, at this point, I should point out, the camera catches her, and she's just trash talking Bayley the entire time. They're locked in like to who they are. They've
disappeared into the rules.
This is what I want out of every wrestling match. This could not be more Sasha Banks versus Bayley, and like they're just in now. Bayley again is constantly trying to fire back. Everything she's doing is on the counter, but Banks just like lets go of the submission as a result and just throws her into the post, just to again create that little space between the two of them. Sasha, to your point, like making the space. Whenever there's a point where Bayley is selling, Sasha just patrols the ring. Yeah. She just circles it and she just owns that space. She just stops at one point to just give Bayley a boot as she's walking around the ring, and then does the sort of, the kind of like the dog burying their own feces, like kick, just kicking the dust over Bayley. She's as good as done. Bayley never ever stops trying to fight back, but again, Sasha hits the knees to the stomach, forcing Bayley she goes to the knees to the stomach in the corner, which again forces Bayley to counter, which means Sasha has to grab her by the legs and just throw her back into the corner, where she crumples in a heap. Sasha finally gets her opportunity. She's failed twice to hit the knees onto Bayley across the middle rope. So what does she do? She sets Bayley up on the top rope where Bayley can't escape. She climbs up and she drops those knees through Bayley as if she is trying to cut her body in half. Yep. This sends the building into more just like complete rapturous applause.
I mentioned earlier, you fill in the blanks. In retrospect, there's some like blank filling here where it's that kind of weird, if you want to be harsh, dumb wrestling logic where if the idea is, it doesn't look the cleanest either, this, but again, nothing matters. It's almost like feature, not a bug stuff, that it's a bit nasty and not exactly how it's planned, and the struggle is real and all the more believable and gripping. Like the idea that on the top rope, it doesn't make a difference. Like the idea is she's not taking a flat back here. She's just getting like that folded into the V shape. But the top rope and the middle rope, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But again, because the mood is this is literally life affirming at this point. It's a bit daft, but go for it. Yeah. It's a really good thread. I'll go with you with this thread that you're going on here. And it's the rule of three is magic. It's a second reversal. It's like, how smart is this, Bayley? The fact that they don't just do that one fail, two. Banks
doesn't do it from the top rope, so she's learned how to counter the middle rope version. She's never thought about needing an escalated counter. Yeah. But I just love it was the second one a little bit earlier of, she's too smart for this, Sasha. She's too smart. And again, you have to realize the context. 2015, praising a babyface for being smart. It's like, I gotta feel like a kid again. This is how it's meant to be. A good guy that's actually good. Yeah. And to that point, Bayley manages to kick out at 2, gets a huge response because it's looked like a bit of a death blow by Sasha.
Because they've sold it and they've registered it as this thing that this is going to be the momentum shift in the match if she can hit this.
Indeed, yeah. Like she's
gutsy for getting out of it the third time and really clever for delaying it for as long as she does.
Yeah, this has felt like it's never going to finish the match in hindsight, but it absolutely scans as a finisher in the moment. And because Bayley kicks out at 2, she rolls over to the corner, and then this is shot amazingly well. WWE production at its best. Bayley sort of like slinks into the corner, and Sasha follows her into the corner, and you get what is effectively a first-person view of Sasha screaming in Bayley's face. You think you're better than me, Bayley? Just because all these people love you, you're pathetic, you're a loser, you'll never, ever, 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 and before she can finish the sentence, Bayley boots her in the face, and it's just perfect. You don't get to do this to me anymore, Sasha. She can't finish the rant. The brutal boot hits Sasha right in the face. Bayley pulls her into the turnbuckle and like drop toe hurls her. It's more desperation punches. She's just, again, trying to like take advantage of the moment more than necessarily having any kind of strategy. But then because she's desperate, Sasha manages to counter a charge and drapes her neck across the middle rope, which sends Bayley off the floor. It's like a sort of hangman's clothesline. This has pissed Sasha Banks off. Like how dare she interrupt her, let alone her interrupt her physical attack on her. Don't interrupt her verbals. She was busy dressing you down, you know? So this has been what's ultimately the kind of the inciting incident as far as Sasha Banks is concerned. So she goes down to the floor and she goes for the wrapped hand. You can hear the gasps in the audience as she starts unfurling the Dusty Rhodes tape from the hand that has been broken as early as this summer for Bayley. Sasha throws her back in to break the count, but it's only to break the count. It's literally just because she wants to continue doing her dirty work. Throws her in, throws her straight back out again, but now Bayley's hand has got none of the Dusty Rhodes tribute or the protective tape on it, and Sasha zeroes in. She slams the hand against the steel steps. The fans just gasp. They're shocked. Bayley is selling. Oh, it's rebroken. It's broken all over again. Thanks very much for that. But she's not even done. She then traps the hand in the groove of the stairs, takes one almighty run up, and boots the stairs into the hand. Look, it's dark art stuff. We know this isn't necessarily going to hurt. We know she's completely safe, but you buy it 1 million, 1,000,000%.
The sound effect is great.
It's that zoom in. Is it Tekken? What's the game where you see every bone break as the person hits to finish him?
Yeah, I don't know which it is.
You just, your own mind at this point is x-raying in that hand, and you're seeing every bone broken in the hand all over again. Sasha's got mean. kind of for the sake of it, a simple act of disrespect. This wasn't cause and effect. She's gone way over the line in what Bayley deserved here. But again, it's kind of laid out at this point exactly where the story is and who the heel and who the babyface is in this match. So Bayley's kind of working with one hand at this point. Sasha goes back in the ring to soak up the heat. And in the process of that, the referee is kind of like leaning through the ropes, trying to see if Bayley's even fine to continue. She's a crumpled mess on the floor. Sasha's so angry, she's almost like trying to get to Bayley, and the referee's trying to play like sort of, I don't know, like medic at this point. So, don't go for it. Because he's central, Sasha runs at the ropes and does a plancha over the top of the referee, takes out Bayley all over again. The fans never saw it coming, so they pop at the surprise and are just, again, in awe at kind of her ingenuity and her will to be violent to Bayley.
This spot might be my favorite in the match because it just pushes against the edge of how things should work and just stops short of not ruining anything. I think this match, there's a moment, I think, where that initially registers as a botch, but the fans don't care. Imminently, in fact, where this is almost the perfect Sasha Banks spot because she plays with the idea of, I can be spectacular too. I'm going to do a move as a heel and I'm being really trad with it compared to, you know, a lot of other wrestling that you see like getting really into the 21st century now, where she's going to get a pop for this because it's a spectacular move, the likes of which a babyface is more accustomed to doing. But the genius of it, and it's very, very Sasha, is it's still a bit of a dick move because you're deceiving Bayley by jumping over the referee.
And he's told her not to do it.
Yeah.
Give her a minute.
It's the closest you're going to get to... It just shows how much he was in complete control, seemingly, of the entire wrestling world on that night in Brooklyn, at least, where this is the closest I'm going to come to just slightly maybe threatening the dynamic and my star power and in-ring brilliance. It's just going to overwhelm the idea, this wonderfully pure idea that Bayley is the one worth rooting for. And then, but she's a dick because she does it like out. It's like Bayley can't defend against that.
No,
It's just so close, so thrillingly close to that edge.
It's attacking somebody from behind in the most spectacular way possible and from the front.
Yes,
like,
I know.
It's awesome. All of those things.
Such a great spot.
Sasha Banks throws back in the ring, but can still only get two. Bayley will not give up. So Sasha leads her by the broken hand, slaps her in the face again. And then this might be the one you're talking about. Does a running attack over the top rope where she like snaps the broken hand over the rope in the same way Randy Savage would snap people's necks over the top rope. But in doing so, it does feel a little bit like a botch because it's kind of unexpectedly damaged Sasha Banks as well. It's left Bayley in the ring writhing in pain with her hand, but Sasha's taken a bump all the way over the top to the floor, and she's kind of knackered herself in the process. The fact that she sells it as such, I think, gets it over the line. I think if she tried to get back up and just get back in the ring, it might not have worked, but her registering of, I've hurt myself to hurt her more, they kind of go with it as a result.
It's a good bit of improv. It's one of those where I think that was maybe too ambitious because when Savage does it, you've got like the full neck and you can feel your throat, you know? It's hard to do that with a hand.
He controls himself with his hands on the apron to balance his feet. And she can't do that.
She can't do that. The target's too small and it doesn't even register as like the rope is a weapon and it would hurt. It was just one bit too much, I think, But again, if she nails it perfectly, lands on her feet and then sort of does the parade, but it doesn't work out that way. But it's a little bit awkward, but when you're watching this at the time, you're just completely absorbed. This is a why you watch it match. You don't care.
You don't care. And like, nor do the fans at this point because Sasha rolls in and she's selling the impact of the move she's attempted. And as a result, this gives them like the Bouye fist fight. And this is great as well because it's such a good detail. They're doing the Bouye fist fight. Bayley throws a punch and obviously he's having to sell a broken hand. So she switches to the axe handle as a way to, again, it's that wrestling logic. Well, I can't use my regular hand, but I can power my hand with the other one. And that's fine. And you just totally buy, she's got the axe bomber in her back pocket. So that's fine. I'll use that instead. So she's firing those axe handles instead. And as a result, she kind of does win the fist fight the two of them are having. She powers Sasha into the corner. We get what was then the trademark inflatable arm-waving tube man, inflatable elbow that she hits in the corner with Sasha. So again, Sasha's in trouble. She gets her in a T-bone suplex position and then switches the stance to do it backwards and throws her straight into the turnbuckle, which is Bayley realising she would always do that move into the turnbuckle, but that's the first time she does it. So that's her in match realising, I need to get nasty.
I can't
do it in the ring.
Yeah.
I need to fold her up.
It's fighting fire with fire.
Yeah.
She wants to break my hand, I'll break her neck.
Yeah. So she winds up thinking that, Sasha's beat. She winds up for the Bayley to belly. Sasha is able to counter that. And then, oh my God, they exchange roll-ups for a pin. And then Sasha just seamlessly manages to plant Bayley's broken hand into the canvas and transition into the bank statement.
It's a frenzy.
This is gorgeous chain wrestling, set to violence.
Frenzy as well.
Yeah, she's got the bank statement and it's in the middle of the ring. Obviously, there's some fans like chanting for the tap, but it's mostly because Bayley looks trapped and she's still the underdog for this one. She extends the hand to grab the ropes, and this is not just any extension for the ropes. The hand, again, free of the Dusty Rhodes tape. Like, there's something about there being no wrist tape, and it's just her arm and her hand out to the ropes. She reaches out to the ropes. The camera is perfectly placed for you to get that Ricky Morton feeling of, come on, Bayley, come on, Bayley, come on, Bayley. What you haven't counted on, Sasha Banks having a free leg, and it's probably the most famous spot of this match.
It's so great.
The boot appears in shot. Bang, 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 stamping on the hand as much as possible. The stomps are not targeted. They are simply just in the vicinity. So some of them get there. Some of them are legit stomps on the
Bayley
hand.
to put your hand there a few times and then move it so you're protecting yourself, but also keep it there so you're selling at the same time. And I think she's just, I'll take care of my own hand. Just stamp as hard as you physically can on that canvas. It's great. Again, if you want to be really pedantic about it, scrutinize it frame by frame by frame. A lot of these don't hit, but it's the sound effect.
Yeah, the audience. Listen to the audience on it.
Yeah.
This is horror.
It's the thud and the shrieks, and it just means so much more than what you're actually seeing. There's so much great deception in this match.
Sasha Banks does the stomp, 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 stomp. The foot gets extended. It's not to stomp the hand anymore. It's to push the pair of them back into the middle of the ring to keep Bayley away from the ropes. And you've got that. Like, what chance does Bayley have?
Yeah.
But because of Sasha's over-exuberance with the push off the ropes, the two of them, again, it looks incredible. The two of them roll all the way through, and Bayley manages to reverse the bank statement on Sasha. So again, we've gone from, it's the darkest before the dawn. We've gone from Bayley looking absolutely double finished to suddenly having this submission of her own on. The fans go nuts. Is she going to get her? Going to get her? But the way they've rolled, Sasha is able to once again use the boot and use the flexibility, and it's her foot that she drapes over the rope, and she's able to sort of like force a break and force the referee. And now both of them are down again. The fans are going absolutely mental as the two of them are sort of like untangled from one another. Bayley is first up. She pulls Sasha away from the ropes, and this time she gets the Bayley to belly, but it only gets two. Everybody is spent at this kick out from Sasha Banks. In a bit of a theme from this Best Match Ever podcast, it's not a 2.999.
No.
But it gets that kind of response because people at this point, they just want the win. They don't care about the little fine margins. They just want the win. There's a "this is awesome" chance, but when it is, you don't mind the chance.
There's something different about the way the "this is awesome" chant used to sound. It's weird to like look back wistfully on. Just the "this is awesome" chants of yore. It's like that in itself was considered this performative, you're getting away from heels and baby faces. So I know the irony and the layers of irony of wistfully wishing that "this is awesome" chant sounded like it used to. I understand this is ridiculous. It did. It sounded like this, it's time to do the thing because I'm just overwhelmed, as opposed to I've been programmed.
Yeah.
Working hard. Let's kind of say it because that's what you do now.
People can scarcely believe what they're watching, and somebody has articulated that in a chant. And everybody's like, great. Like they've articulated that. Bayley tries to pull Sasha Banks up for a top rope Bayley to belly. This is the way she defeated Charlotte Flair en route to this title match. And again, we talk about like the escalation, the need to go. We've seen it with Sasha Banks. Go to the top rope for your move rather than a simple move to get it done. But in doing so, they're able ultimately to like dress up a struggle on the top rope as being a little bit too much. So Bayley goes for a Hurricane Rana instead when she's unable to get the belly to belly. But Sasha just pushes her off. You see Bayley's legs like just lose connection with Sasha's neck, and Bayley just hits the floor at a vertical angle. And again, you're led to think, is that a botch? Like Bayley's gone for it all. Her desperation has led to a downfall ultimately because she has just hit that canvas neck first. She is down, she is out. You're thinking like, what are they going to have to like rejig something? No, it was part of the match because Sasha hits maybe the best looking Meteora of her entire career directly into the Brett Bulldog tight cover. So not only has Bayley hit the mat like that, Sasha has then like hit her with the Meteora and locked her in seemingly an inescapable pinfall. This is beautiful wrestling violence.
It's beautiful pro wrestling violence, and just on that Bulldog pin, it works every single time. I always think, well, you can't get out of that.
You can't get out of that.
You cannot
Brett
get out
at
of
Wembley,
that.
so how's anyone going to get out of that?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm watching it yesterday, knowing the finish, and I'm like, how do you kick out of that again? It's awesome.
So Bayley,
I'm
again,
almost glad that people haven't realised just how effective it is.
it's so, to your point, because it's inescapable and she escapes, it's again that babyface fire. It's like, there's a goodie good enough to do this.
Yeah.
She's going to win this fight for all of us. But what have we learned across this match? Taking things to the top rope is the only way to escalate the violence and potentially win. Bayley has seemingly risked it all and potentially lost the match as a result, going for that top rope belly to belly. But Sasha Banks thinks, right, well, that's what we're doing then.
Yeah.
So she then takes Bayley over into the other corner. She's going to go for her own kill shot now. She places Bayley on the top turnbuckle, but Bayley...
It's 1-1 in this duel as well.
This is
so
it,
no
right?
one's making a stupid decision.
It's all logic. It's all informed by, well, it's been boom or bust when we go to the top rope, so I might as well give it one last try. I can't beat it with my submission.
She's really coming back into this fight.
I can't beat her anyway. So up we go at the top rope. Bayley manages to sort of counter Sasha with punches, and Sasha finds herself on the top, like perched on the top rope, but facing out to the crowd. So she's got her back to the ring. So Bayley repositions herself. And again, what have we talked about? The damage from the top rope. Realizing that she couldn't hit the normal Hurricane Rana the first time, goes around the back and hits the Poison Rana. Again, probably another most replayed spot from this match.
I couldn't believe this.
It's a top rope Poison Rana. That does speak for itself as a move, but we're speaking for itself on this podcast. Sasha Banks's full body hands out extension is incredible to look at.
I'm dead.
Well, I'm going through the midair and I'm dead. Bayley's execution of it is perfect. That neck is driven crisp and clean into the mat. And honestly, this is where the point, like the phrase now is, my shirt is off. Nobody wants that visual, but let me tell you, I am roaring at the screen watching this at the time, roaring at the screen in one last incredible detail that goes all the way back to Bayley feeling like she wasn't good enough by being herself. She's been herself and the other three have been called up. Why can't I be herself? She rips off the last of the bandage because it was never about that. She straightens the side pony because it's about being Bayley. Yeah. And she runs at Sasha, who is out on her feet from the Poison Rana. Bayley to belly.
It's like a warp.
Oh my God.
It's just pure desire in that run.
It's a sprint, even though you've only got the corner to the middle of the ring to do it. The side pony is set, the Bayley to belly. She's doing it by being Bayley. Drills Sasha with one more Bayley to belly. Double sort of hook of the legs. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Bayley is the NXT champion. Sasha has been beaten by the better woman. Yeah. That couldn't have been more illustrated because she's on her way out, obviously. Bayley has now got to be the leader of this division, and what a job she would go on to do. And we're going to talk about the post-match in a second, but I mean, Monster Pop understates it. It's tears all around. Yeah. Bayley cries as she holds the belts aloft. If you look closely on your 100th watch of this match as we're all having, you can see Sasha looking at the lights, trying to fight back the tears herself. In the crowd, there are fans beating their chest. This has reduced fans to primal emotions. If you're not crying, you're screaming. This is the business.
This is a match that just feels in no way forced, and it just is overwhelmingly special as you're watching it. At the time, you know you're going to remember it forever. And that finish is just out of this world in terms of, has anyone wanted it more in that moment than Bayley wanted to win? Like, I've got her, bang.
Yeah.
It just felt like real. This is a thing that makes it this is a match that makes it all feel worthwhile to follow, makes it feel real in that moment, total suspension of disbelief, and that goes beyond, we talked about how snug these strikes are in a women's match in 2015 in WWE. It's outrageous, but the sheer emotion, that emotional logic on which this match operates is just absolutely out of this world. That intent and the desire to get to that match-winning belly to belly is absolutely incredible. I was hesitant to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because Dave Meltzer, we would not be here without. He's free as he is. It's completely up to him what he rates matches. Every time he drops a 4.5, I think of this match because this was awarded 4.5 by the Observer newsletter at the time, and it's just so weird. It's a total 5 for me.
Yeah,
it's a total 5. And I just remember distinctly, it's like, this will never age. You've got the most perfect dynamic there is. And not only is it the most perfect dynamic, you're not looking at it through this sort of nostalgic pattern of how things used to be and can never return to, like, you know, that Dusty Ric Flair dynamic, you know, that Hogan Andre, they did it post kayfabe. When everyone watching really is that millennial fan, disillusioned by the main roster offerings, and then they make you feel like a kid. This is a match that, in fact, makes people feel the way they did when they were small children all over again, that you will have Cope, Edge, talk about Warrior Hogan, WrestleMania 6 at the Sky Dome. That was his I need to do this for a living match. And all the other wrestlers we'll talk about their favorite matches and what got them into it. Britt Baker is in her 20s watching this and go, that's what I need to do. Like, I think she's already training, but this is her match of like, well, that's why I need to do this. It was like the reminder, if not the reason, it was almost certainly the reminder of why you watch this and why you fall in love with it. If it gets any better than this, pro wrestling, and the feeling and the vibe and the contrast and the story and the drama and the vibe and the feeling and everything that goes into it, like, this is why you watch it.
They're replaying the best bits, and then when we go back to the ring, obviously Bayley's got a moment to celebrate, and then unexpectedly, there are Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch as baby faces who are now on the main roster. They've hit the ring to embrace her. They're both crying. You can see as they kind of move towards the hard camera, Becky mouths something along the lines of, this is everything to women's wrestling. And she's not wrong, is she? Yeah. And that's not something for the microphones to pick up. That's something between two friends and peers. Charlotte goes and picks up Sasha Banks, and the two of them hug to like just another rapturous applause. It's a now famous curtain call. The four of them hug in the ring. They flash the 4 horsewomen sign because, you know, obviously it's become part of their branding already by this point, and they all know that this is going to be the last time, for the time being at least, the 4 of them are going to be together on the NXT stage. It is something that wrestling will play fast and loose with because they know often it gets a good pop. Who hasn't been to an indie show where the one fly-in at the end of the show says, this guy, he's going to be the next big guy in the business, because it's just kind of what you do with the local guy, even if they're never going to make it. So curtain calls and crying and hugging is not always used authentically. I think sometimes wrestling know they can lean on it a little bit. That couldn't be more the opposite here. This feels like something not just that the women wanted to do, that I think it was integral to the kind of the closing shot of this match, because it is a match for all 4, because those 4 have been for so many. Like what they know they've already done and will continue to do with this match as kind of the personification of it is a very deserved celebration. This is the moment where the 4 of them get the flowers, because without the 4, there probably couldn't have been these 2 and this match. Previously, I think Rich, it might have been Corey, but one of them has said, one of the commentators said, like, as I think Bayley celebrates, this is what the Divas Revolution is all about. And just my observation, I feel like as the 4 of them are in there, giving it that and raising their arms and crying, Corey Graves has a second call saying women's wrestling is back. And that feels like an instruction from the back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Divas Revolution for the soundbite for the main roster video package. Women's wrestling is back for what actually matters here. And you buy it, you believe it. Like there's no, this is a shoot curtain call in the sense that they're having this moment together, and it means, like, they're not having to act. This means everything to them.
Yeah, no, completely earned. Like, I've got a love-hate relationship with pro wrestling. I don't trust you if you don't. So I try not to mythologize and be too reverent towards it. But when you've got a moment like this and you know, right, we can use this, we can market this. And I'm trying not to be too cynical. We can market this as the like fundamental chapter that it is for what we're trying to do here. Like, go.
You can't do it if it's not earned.
Oh, of course not.
It wouldn't feel real.
Imagine this match just didn't work.
Yeah.
But it felt like everything was working towards making it work. Just a special, fateful night of professional wrestling.
Yeah, you've said it. Another reason this is why you watch it.
This is why you watch it.
It's why it's the best match ever. Let us know your thoughts on Sasha versus Bayley from TakeOver Brooklyn. Let us know your thoughts about future editions of Best Match Ever. Some of your favourites. Leave them in the comments below. Engage with us on this on Twitter /X at WhatCultureWB, where they can find you, Michael Sidgwick, at
M. Sidgwick.
You can find me at Michael Hamflett. You can find our brilliant producer, Adam Nicholas, at
It's Adam Nicholas.
And until next time, we will see you soon.